Everybody, wait a minute. Everybody, wait a minute. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like right here at Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball, joined by my main man, J.A.M, and my brother Diallo for another edition right here of a Friday, Freedom Fridays, Black Fist Fridays. What's up, fellas? Good morning. Greetings to you.
Morning. Good morning.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to all the remixers. Geechee, go ahead and unmute, man. Say something. We got a lot of criticism and comments saying that me and Diallo don't let you talk. I don't want people to think that was on purpose. Yeah, Diallo, we got.
Hey, listen, man. Y'all kept cutting my mic off, so I was all right with it.
Wow, geek.
Yeah, Diallo. More than of all the comments we got last week, whether people agreed with you, whether they agreed with me, one thing they all agreed with was that we didn't let Geechee talk. So,
you know, them Geechee folks don't speak standard English, so we can't have him on here with that Geechee Gullah language selling up our sophisticated show.
Wow. Well, I'm about to have y'all arguing again when I bring up Andy Young. So, oh well.
Oh boy. We do have a big show this morning. We have a couple guests coming through this morning, one of whom we're waiting on any moment now. The other will join us at 9 o'clock. The topics, reparations and political prisoners. In the interim, let me just remind folks to please go check all the content on BPM, including the recent drops from myself, the Answering Critics episode I did yesterday. Please check that out, as well as the discussion around Mumia's papers going to Brown University and the special call we got from Mumia, which itself was dropped independently as a video on the channel. Please check that out as well and support all of those folks and struggles and prisoners in particular. Please also definitely check the very special edition of of our ongoing BPM A Soldier's Story series, where we just posted our interview with Ashanti Alston, which was powerful and amazing. I just watched it again. So please support that and spread the word on that as well. Support our fundraiser. The link is in the show description. Support my comrades here on screen, whose shows and links are also in the show description. And keep putting your comments and criticisms in the chat and on the shows. Anyway, fellas, before we go any farther, anything you all want to update us on, announce, share, spread the word on?
The Queen is dead.
Yeah.
Which Queen? Everybody kept saying Queen Latifah. Which Queen y'all talking about?
So what I was good, my one-liner has been the next season of Netflix's The Crown is about to be off the hook.
I never seen it. Well,
oh man, I'm just anyway. Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I just have to. I hate being the Grinch and the party pooper, but I said the same thing because I see a lot of people celebrating her passing and talk mad disrespectful, and it's the same thing when her husband died a little while ago. I mean, these people are dying in their late 90s with all their wealth intact and passing it on to the successor generations. I don't understand why so many of her subjects, quote unquote, are looking at this as a victory. I don't understand the celebratory attitude like, yeah, she's gone. Yeah, yeah. As if she was taken out in a coup d'etat or taken out to the gallows for her crimes against humanity. This lady died at an old age, surrounded by generations of her family in opulent wealth, and it all over Twitter. These people, the memes and stuff, and I'm like, you know, Del Jones said, you know, we lose so much, we don't know what a victory looked like. I'm like, what did we win here? What are we celebrating here? 96 goddamn years old.
She got a whole protocol. She got a whole protocol and a whole bunch of stuff that's gonna happen for the next few days in London.
And they're already setting up Crown King Charles. Yeah. Why is and I'm seeing all these memes about and black people even locking arms with the Irish nationalists. They're locking arms with Indian, former colonial India, and thinking we got solidarity with these other groups who have demonstrated. I would love to join the processions. This is like some groveling peasants in the pub after a long day of toiling on the king's land, and they go to the grimy pub and talk greasy, but knowing damn well tomorrow they're going to get up and toil for the king the next day. You know what? I just don't understand the animosity.
So, I think you're right. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No, I just don't understand all this animosity that I'm seeing that is not reflected by, that is also countermeasured by our acquiescence to the very system that's propped her up and sustained her, and that is continuing on after her. I don't understand it.
I think you're right to remind us this is not a victory. I admittedly I've responded or interpreted the response that you're talking about to be less about claiming an actual victory and more about just hating on those who are sad at the passing of the Queen. But I do think that even to the extent that I'm right in that interpretation, what you're saying, Diallo, is really important in terms of where our analysis needs to be headed. But my initial reaction has just been, man, people are just hating on people crying and just saying, you know, we're not. So, but just quickly, I got this sent to me. Let me share this real quick. The statement, shout out, to Dr. Bolden, who sent me this here. But the statement from the economic freedom fighters, I don't know, to the leftward radical formation of Africans in Azania, who of course suffered the colonization of the Queen, and I think their statement in some ways supports what you're saying there, Diallo. But let me check this out real quick. The Economic Freedom Fighters notes the death of Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor, the Queen of the United Kingdom and the ceremonial head of state of several countries that were colonized by the United Kingdom. Elizabeth ascended to the throne in 1952, reigning for 70 years as a head of an institution built up, sustained, and living off a brutal legacy of dehumanization of millions of people across the world. We do not mourn the death of Elizabeth because to us, her death is a reminder of a very tragic period in this country and Africa's history. Britain, under the leadership of the royal family, took over control of this territory that would become South Africa in 1795 from Batavian control and took permanent control of the territory in 1806. From that moment onward, native people of this land have never known peace, nor have they ever enjoyed the fruits of the riches of this land, riches which were and still are utilized for the enrichment of the British royal family and those who look like them. From 1811, when Sir John Cradock declared war against the Amakosa, forgive my inability to pronounce that properly, in the Zurveld in what is now known as the Eastern Cape up until 1906, when the British crushed the Bambata Rebellion. Our interaction with Britain under the leadership of the British royal family has been one of pain and suffering, of death and dispossession, and of dehumanization of African people. We remember now how Ixele died in the aftermath of the Fifth Frontier War, how King Hintsa was killed like a dog on the 11th of May, 1835 during the Sixth Frontier War and had his body mutilated and his head taken to Britain as a trophy. It was also the British royal family that sanctioned the actions of Cecil John Rhodes, who plundered this country, Zimbabwe and Zambia. It was the British, excuse me, let me just get to this next page. It was the British royal family that benefited from the brutal mutilation of people of Kenya, whose valiant resistance to British colonialism invited vile responses from Britain. In Kenya, Britain built concentration camps and suppressed with such inhumane brutality the Mau Mau Rebellion, killing Dedan Kimathi on the 18th of February, 1957, while Elizabeth was already queen. The family plundered India via the East India Company. It took over control and oppressed the people of the Caribbean islands. Their thirst for riches led to the famine that caused millions of people to die in Bengal, and their racism led to the genocide of Aboriginal people in Australia. Elizabeth Windsor, during her lifetime, never acknowledged these crimes that Britain and her family in particular perpetrated across the world. In fact, she was a proud flag bearer of these atrocities because during her reign, when the people of Yemen rose to protest against British colonialism in 1963, Elizabeth ordered a brutal suppression of that uprising. During her 70-year reign as queen, she never once acknowledged the atrocities that her people inflicted on native people that Britain invaded across the world. She willingly benefited from the wealth that was attained from the exploitation and murder of millions of people across the world. The British royal family stands on the shoulders of millions of slaves who were shipped away from the continent to serve the interests of racist white capital accumulation, at the center of which lies the British royal family. If there is really life and justice after death, may Elizabeth and her ancestors get what they deserve, end quote. So a statement from those still in struggle in Azania, aka South Africa, and I think says, if not everything, a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wholly agree with that statement. I think that is the appropriate response to when a monarch, a figurehead for a system that is sustained, dies. Because the system is still with us, the conditions are still with us, the resources are still in the hands of the oppressor, global white hegemony and capitalism. Yeah, I don't know why they had to put that slur about capital accumulation in there. We don't need such horrible slurs in our statements. But other than that, I wholeheartedly agree, and I think that's the more appropriate.
Yeah, it's almost like calling somebody the N-word.
Right? Yeah. I don't know why our Tanzanian brothers and sisters have to stoop to such levels to use slurs. But other than that, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Yeah, right on.
I think it's also a time for some of our celebrity pundits to become relevant in our community again by also not celebrating her death. So
good luck. Did you see the dedication Chuck D did for Colin Powell?
Oh no.
Oh, you don't follow Chuck D on Instagram?
Nah.
Not. I am a follower, but I don't pay that much attention to really, honestly, anybody's feeds.
Yes, like he did a post for Colin Powell, so I'm waiting for him. I'm sure he's been up all night working on his Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, all of them. You should see. I think Ice Cube also gave a shout out to Colin Powell. It was mad Negroes coming out of the woodwork showing their underwear,
Ice Cube is one thing, but it doesn't pain me quite like I'm pained to hear of what you're saying of Chuck.
Oh, you didn't know Ice Cube became conscious in the 90s?
No, I remember that part. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Yeah. Anyway, damn.
I mean, I'm pretty sure your homeboy Ice-T
in the same sentence.
Your homeboy Ice-T probably gonna say something.
Hey.
I'm just saying,
man, y'all going too far. Every damn show I get up here, I come up here to do this show. Y'all got to try to provoke something.
I mean, he's a little bit closer to the Queen than anybody, but so I think Ice-T.
No, Ice-T is a treasure. He's a treasure. Cops hate kids, kids hate cops, cops kill kids with warning shots. What is crime and what is not? What is justice? I think I forgot. Come on, Ice-T, man. Now leave him alone.
Bars.
Yes.
Bars.
Yes.
Bars.
Come on.
And tune in
certain places we don't go.
Well, tune in each week to see him playing a cop and to see Queen Latifah playing an FBI agent.
No.
So good times these are. Good times. We do have some guests coming. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. We just got to get that perm back on his head. Ever since he shaved that perm, Ice-T ain't been right. You know, but go back to look at permed out Ice-T. That brother was a treasure.
6 a.m, police at my door.
Fresh Adidas squeak across my bathroom floor. Don't get me started.
All right, man. All right. Well, anyway, so, you know, I did tune into one of my soccer YouTube channels the other day, or yesterday, and dude was literally in tears over the Queen. I had to turn it off. I was like, oh, wow, I forgot some of you actually. I was like, I forgot. All these British cats, like, I forgot for a second. You actually, this actually meant something to you. I was like, oh, I tuned in to get some soccer news, and you up here crying. I was like, okay, I gotta go. I'll come back next week. Let me let you get over this.
I'm happy to announce I only had to delete one person from my Facebook that said RIP to the Queen. So everybody else seemed like they was on code. So.
Oh,
I've seen several dedications from random Black folks from across the globe, respectful dedications and respectful acknowledgments of the Queen's passing. I've seen dozens, but I hang out with weirdos, I guess.
Shirley, I was talking about just one of my random, you know, soccer YouTube channels. A lot of it comes out of England, and I admit I forgot for a second, and this dude came on camera. I thought I was gonna get the latest on Tuchel getting fired from Chelsea, and he was in there, eyes red, tears. He was like, had to pause, had a moment of silence. I was like, oh, okay, I'll see you next week. I was like,
wow.
Yeah, I'll let you all, you know.
But can I say this?
Please.
People mourning the loss of the Queen, at least one thing we can say about them that we can't say about the people mocking her passing is the consistency. You know, I see more people acquiescing to the system that that sustains the Queen, the infrastructure, the system, the value system that sustains monarchy and colonialism. I see more of us acquiescing. So, you know, versus our words versus our actions, I wish that our animosity for the Queen aligned for our animosity to capitalism, our animosity to white hegemony, the animosity to U.S. Western military aggression, and all that. So I don't think if you are mad at an individual who's going to die, the British colony, the Western hegemony was here before she was born, and now it's going to be here after she's dead. So you use this figurehead to pile all your animosity on when the infrastructure, the systems, institutions, and values that allowed her to exist in the first place, you know, that allowed her to come out of the Caucasus Mountain caves and ascend to one of the wealthiest people on the planet, it's still here. Where's the animosity for that? Them same people who was dissing her then are going to go on social media tomorrow after sharing an anti-Queen Elizabeth meme are going to be hashtag goals for Jay-Z, defending Jay-Z. You know, talking about, you know, their hustle, their grind, and how they going to come up. So that is what eats away at me.
That's why I appreciate what you said. That's why I appreciate the statement. It was like them coming out from economic freedom fighters, attempting to politicize what I'm still interpreting is people's very visceral but disorganized and unpoliticized responses, which I think are just simply, I'm hating on the fact that a lot of white folks are enjoying this. And I don't think they're getting beyond that level of, they're just, it's like, you all are sad, I'm happy. And while we can appreciate that basic sentiment, I think to your point, Diallo, it has to be elevated. There has to be some extended critique. Geechee, man, the comments are in my head, man. I'll make sure you get all the mic time you need, man. I'm not gonna front. I was like, I never thought I was so much part of suppressing Black thought as I was accused of last week.
Shout out to the chat from your boy. You know, I was locked down. So I'm in these streets again. So I appreciate y'all.
Right on. I appreciate you as well. We are waiting for our first set of special guests who are starting to slowly show up, and we welcome them, and we'll get to them as soon as they're ready in just a minute. And in the second hour, we're going to get into a discussion with another special guest around reparations. We started with that. So definitely stick around, invite others to join you here this morning on the show. Like, share, subscribe, do all those good things. Fellas, in the interim, while we wait for our guests, anything else you want to get to, or make sure that we at least mention, or anything you want to announce, anything at all?
Well, I'm going to be out of town in the next couple of weeks. I'll actually be in Europe for a conference. So I'm going to be in Naples.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we got a grant. It's, you know, white folks is paying. We're going to go tell them to talk to them about research on racism, the immigrant crisis over there. So, you know, I'm gonna be out and about for a couple of weeks.
All right.
But,
feel free to bring back any video. You know,
I don't know. I might go to the Vatican. I heard it's got a lot of African artifacts and stuff. So I'll try to killmonger.
That's what I'm talking about. Again,
then y'all can hashtag free Diallo.
We're on the same page on that one too.
Get your hashtag free Diallo ready.
That's what's up.
And
no, I appreciate that. Have, you know, safe travels, all that good stuff. And you know, next month, same thing. I'm gonna be over, and in fact, we're gonna broadcast. We're gonna do a show from The Hague at a conference around Paul Robeson and activism. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
The J.A.M is at my neck, man. I'm telling you.
The Jay-Z criticism?
Listen, we all know the stereotype of a groupie. Some woman in her late teens, early 20s in a skimpy outfit. And, you know, screaming at and trying to get back to stage. Let me tell you, the most aggressive demographic of groupies are middle-aged men. Adult middle-aged men in rocker wear. They don't even sell rocket wear anymore. Them brothers have to preserve that shit. They like bought stockpiles of it because I don't even see rocket wear in the store. The adult middle-aged men are the most aggressive, loyal groupies in the world. The male groupies, it blows my mind. Just the way they're coming at me and speculating about my feelings for Jay-Z, my jealousy, and where my hostility towards Jay-Z is born of. It blows my mind, you know. So I'm sorry.
No, I was about to say I won't be in Europe, but I will. This organization I was organizing with in Birmingham when I was there, and I'll be writing a piece on Jay-Z for them. So I'm gonna probably get some more.
Don't put your name on it.
It is what it is. Like I actually do think that he was responding to the word black capitalism instead of capitalism. And I'm only thinking that because I've had several conversations with the mutual colleague or acquaintance about black capitalism, which he didn't understand it. And so I'm pretty sure when Jay-Z was saying that the concept was created or just created, he was probably thinking of black capitalism, not knowing about Nixon or LBJ. But yeah, I'll be writing a little bit of that, and it should be up in the next day or two.
You know, as a qualifier, if you have to label something black in order to justify your participation, more likely than not, you shouldn't be fooling with it. We got black feminists out here, and we got black, you know, Greeks, black Greek letter organizations. By the time you got to throw black on, because, you know, I'm a vegan, I'm a vocal vegan, but I never feel the impulse to say I'm a black vegan in order to distinguish myself from any other vegan. You know, I'm a socialist, you know, but I never feel the impulse to say, well, I'm a black socialist or black socialism. If socialism as it stands is not adequate, slapping black on the front of it is not going to fix it. You can't black Jesus, you know, black Muslim. If you have to put the qualifier black on something, you know, like saying I'm a black African. If you got to put the qualifier black on something, then more likely than not, you should leave it alone. Just as a rule of thumb. Maybe you might, I know y'all both gonna find examples where it's appropriate to call it black, but up to this point, every time I find somebody's like, no, I'm the black version of this, more likely is you shouldn't be fooling with it in the first damn place. And I hate Jay-Z. I don't hate Jay-Z. I hate our attitudes and views of Jay-Z. I don't know Jay-Z personally. I don't know Kanye personally. What I look at is people's level of influence over the community and the way the community receives individuals of status. If the community, y'all don't hear me get on here talking about Clarence Thomas, because the vast majority of black people, we on the right side of Clarence Thomas. We understand who he is. We understand what he's about. So I could just focus on the institutional framework around Clarence Thomas and the harm that he does within the apparatus of white hegemony. But when we take these people into our community and look at them as leaders, so when you hear me hating on Farrakhan, Kanye, you know, Ice Cube, or it's not that I know them or know anything about them. I hate what they represent and their stance in the larger community and the consciousness of the masses. If the black people would ignore Jay-Z, I'd join us in ignoring Jay-Z.
I'm with you. Shout out to Dev Springer who jumped on with me yesterday to talk a little bit about our slight disagreement about how we address celebrity in these political spaces. But this is, again, sort of the point that I feel compelled to, that Jay-Z is already an established celebrity. He has been imposed. He is an unfortunate de facto reality in our space that has to be addressed. Again, when for me, it's usually in the classroom, but students are constantly departing from people like Jay-Z as a point of departure for their analysis and their worldview, and it's a constant barrier I feel I have to go through to reach them. So I think it's important that there be a critique targeted at them, especially when they intervene in these spaces like he just did the other day. I mean, that Twitter conversation he had around that they were hosting, again, it's like what I was saying about the white dude crying on the soccer thing. I sometimes do forget, even as I'm studying this, somehow I still sometimes don't realize how much celebrity really is. Like, these dudes are super famous. He says one thing, and just relative to my space, so many people were hitting me up with this. Like, people I don't hear from, I don't even know, were like, did you see this, Jared? Did you hear what he said, Jared? And I'm sitting there. So my point is, it's just it seemed like the whole world, I mean, people in my classes were talking about it. Students who don't normally talk about capitalism, economics, and they were like, yeah. Like,
all right.
So here I come into the classroom like, I hate black capitalism. I don't like imposed celebrity. And they're like, Dr. Ball's a hater. What are we going to have to do this semester? What is this class going to have to be like? I'm retitling it as I hate Jay-Z.
Right. But and the thing about Jay-Z, were black, like, why you hate Jay-Z? If you take a historical context, Jay-Z is just a placeholder. From chattel slavery till now, white people have come up with this concept of the model Negro, or the embodiment of the appropriate behaviors for the colored man. And then a little later, it came up with the credit to the race. Oh, you're a credit. your race because of a Negro who carries out and conducts himself as the white people want us to. And now we went from the motto Negro to the credit to your race to the hashtag goal aspirational Negro. So Jay-Z could be replaced tomorrow. Jay-Z could be easily replaced. They've already got his replacement lined up. Jay-Z replaced some other Negro. So it's not that I dislike Jay-Z. It's just Jay-Z is a good springboard or a good soundboard for critiquing conditions and relationship and power. So, you know, don't be mad. I it's not personal to Jay-Z. I know that Negro, and he knows better than I know that he's just a figurehead. He's a mascot, you know. He's a mascot for white values and a conduit. And a celebrity, remember, a celebrity is different than an artist. Not all artists are celebrity, and not all celebrities are artists. A celebrity is a marketing tool. And they're not just selling you products, which they are, but they're also selling you lifestyles. They're also selling you ideas. That's why he's on stage with the Democrat, you know, the DNC leaders, and on stage with Hillary and Barack. He is. So anytime someone reaches celebrity status, which is much different than being an artist, you can even appreciate someone's art while rejecting and denouncing their celebrity. If we can make that distinction, because there's a lot of artists that I love, but I hate all celebrities.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're exactly right, and I'm just trying to help our guests get themselves situated in the background here. So if I seem a little distracted, that's what it is. But yeah, right on. That's the distinction right there. Anyway, let me make sure, Geechee, you have a chance to say something.
No, so yeah, as a recovering fan, I mean, even when I go back and look at art, I mean, his wordplay is probably dope, but a lot of the lyrics are just trash. He was class antagonistic this whole fucking time. So
I think again, up to the Black Album, that's all I really claim. I don't listen to him that much since then, but lyrically, I think he was unstoppable. Not in terms of political content, but just in terms of flow, wordplay, as you said, storytelling, all of that kind of stuff. I think he was in the league of his own. But always a political contradiction. I used to always describe him as my biggest contradiction, that I liked him that much, you know, and he picked the right beats. That's what I thought more than anything. Now, years ago, I did an interview, speaking of Chuck D. I interviewed Chuck D years ago, who said that Jay-Z's rise had more to do with the actual sound, the tone of his voice, than anything else. And I had never really considered that. I thought that was an interesting take, but anyway, yeah.
I think that's how Big L was going to probably blow too, because of his voice. But you know,
it's all marketing. Like Immortal Technique said, they're not as good as me. They just have better marketing scheme. You know.
It's also that they have the benefit of not only the marketing, but they have the benefit of, and this is something I have always appreciated about media studies, is that it's the argument around Jay-Z feeds an already established norm. So Immortal Technique, even if he had better marketing, he's got to still, again, like I'm talking about in my classroom, he's got to go through, that is, Immortal Technique has to go through the barrier established by the mainstream way of thinking in terms of the content and approach to certain topics, so that even if they were marketed properly, those ideas would still struggle. So Jay-Z, even as he said, he slowed his cadence down. He made sure, as he admitted, I'm not going to rhyme even like Talib Kweli or the Roots or Common, even if they were supposedly the most radical we could get.
That's I did a million. I ain't rhyming like Common Sense.
That was it. So he acknowledged, I have targeted mainstream celebrity success, and he did it well. But yeah, anyway. So look, let's take a quick break. We're going to go ahead and try to proceed with one of our guests, so we don't, completely lose sight of what they're trying to do, and can at least get some discussion of their work. And hopefully we can get some of the others are involved on either later in the discussion or at another time. Obviously, everybody can always be welcome back. But let's go ahead and take a quick break and come back and talk a little bit about the people. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, welcome everybody back and joining us this morning is Sophia Williams, who is here to talk with us a little bit about the people. And if we can, let me just start with this trailer real quick, and then we can go from there.
In those times, it was a time when yesterday's dreams were preferred. A period where personal sacrifices were not abandoned, but were regarded as doing one's part. It was a time when young women and men had faith and sought to realize their truths for the future. They knew it was not a matter of peace while at war, but rather peace after the revolution. Their slogans were power to the people and black power to black people. It was time when black love reigned supreme and the babies were held in esteem. Make babies for the revolution before I die was the war cry, and all caught the infectious dream. That if you believe it, then you should be it and live it, or let it be. And we believed it, we lived it, and what we let be had no relevance in those times.
Right on, right on, right on. Welcome, welcome. Now, we do have to say that, unfortunately, given what Diallo said earlier, he cannot be a supporter of Black Power because anything that requires the prefix of Black in front of it has lost its value. But
Look, man, we try to have a discussion.
I can agree to say we need power, just power.
My bad. Look, Spirit of Mandela, about the people. Sophia, please welcome and is it Tag TG? Forgive me. Please tell us a little bit about yourselves. Introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what we just saw there in that clip.
Yes, absolutely.
Sophia, you want to start? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, that's fine. Go ahead, Tag.
No doubt. Yeah, peace. Yeah, absolutely. And just glad to be on. Greatly appreciate this space and of course all that's going on here at Black Power Media or Foundational Power Media or Melanin, however we want to describe.
Oh no. Don't start dragging us over to that Tariq Nasheed nonsense. This is Black Power. That's it. Okay. All right.
I feel it. But yeah, so no, about the people, we're looking to keep it as self-explanatory as possible in that way. We're coming through about the people, really extending out of the Spirit of Mandela's International Tribunal last October, finding the U.S. guilty of 5 basic charges of genocide. That's including.
Sophia, you want to pick up where unfortunately he was forced to leave off?
Yeah, sure thing. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Well, until Tag returns, I'll continue. But yeah, thank you again to your great team and everyone for having us on. And the conversation thus far has really been spirited on a number of levels. Tag, you're back. You want to continue then?
Yeah, I don't know where it cut me off, but was just saying, charge the U.S. with genocide. They were found guilty of genocide, as we all knew that it would, because that's what they do every day. It's genocide for profit, as the ancestors put it plainly in the initial "We Charge Genocide" petition. And so we're looking to, as best as possible, continue to articulate and uplift those realities to our people as directly as we can through these media that we tend to relate to. So making it as visually clear as possible. We're connecting with our comrades in different spots throughout the U.S. and ideally throughout the broader territories and internationally elsewhere. But our focus right now is hitting up different spaces that we know where heads are really doing the work on the ground level. We're continuing to push for, as heads may be aware, the People's Senate is the next major phase of Spirit of Mandela's work since the tribunal. So we're absolutely looking to, connect with heads on that level, support in the articulation of how do we come together towards self-determination up against, a system of governance that is hell-bent on our destruction on all levels and is engaging in multiple genocides and has been for centuries.
Right on. Sophia, you want to jump in and tell us a little bit about who you are and the work you're doing, and then anything. I'd certainly like to hear more about the charges and the Spirit of Mandela tribunal, and then of course about Camp Mutakim as well.
Yeah, sure thing. Again, thank you all for having us on here. My name is Sophia, and I've been, involved in activism, radical activism with the campaign to bring Mumia home, the larger Free Mumia, Love Not Fear movement, and really trying to just connect all the issues, all the societal oppressions that we've been handed, and do something about them, so to speak. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me. I've recently, in the past, few months, tried to get more involved with the Spirit of Mandela's efforts, and trying to stick with that because it's such a big thing that they're doing, and a unique trajectory that they're on. And I feel that so many ways this is definitely something that more people hopefully are becoming aware of. So that's just a little bit a short version. And again, thank you for having us on.
No, right on. Geechee, Diallo, jump in at any point if you like. But Sophia, Tag, please tell us anything more about the video clip we saw, and what is Camp Mutakim, and what is the relationship of the tribunal to political prisoners here and to that camp, or to about the people more broadly?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, whatever happened with the internet, ideally that's resolved now. But so I believe that at least ideally, I was able to get out the question of environmental racism, with regard to the charges. So that's one of them. Another of the 5 basic charges of genocide that the U.S. was just found guilty of this past October is that of the political imprisonment, and the fact that there are many prisoners of war and political prisoners inside of these U.S. dungeons, which the U.S. continues to claim otherwise. The U.S. continues to claim that it has no political prisoners, which is the most patently absurd claim imaginable, because the U.S. is literally a plantation system. So it has the most incarcerated people in the world and the most political prisoners, and claims to have 0. So the propaganda that the U.S. engages is beyond reckless. So that's another one of the basic charges: the fact of political imprisonment, also the hyper incarceration of all of us, but especially Black, brown, and indigenous heads out here. and as well as the health disparities that we face out here, and the destructive slave patrolling system under the rubric of policing that goes on out here. So these are the genocide charges, the 5 charges, and then the basic charge of genocide itself, which is of course a crime under international law, under even U.S. law, and under just natural universal law. Obviously, you shouldn't be engaging in genocide against people. So so Camp Muntakim is refers to our freedom fighter and former political prisoner of war, Diallo Muntakim, who of course did just about 50 years inside, from the age of 19 until he was an elder, just recently being released. And they continue to target this brother. So political imprisonment, of course, is alive and unfortunately very ongoing in the U.S. So that's the focus of our first installment of About the People, is our multiple trips out to Camp Muntakim, which is a term that we got from the brothers over at Hella Black, who have connected with Brother Jaleel numerous times. And so we heard of them referring to Brother Jaleel's spot as Camp Muntakim, and it seemed very fitting. And so that's the title that we gave for this, because the anchor of our footage for this first installment that we're launching tonight, and as we continue to honor our sisters, brothers, and family on the inside, through Black August and into the commemoration of what occurred at Attica and the uprising and the revolutionary struggle that continues on the inside. Camp Muntakim represents really in many ways the origins of Spirit of Mandela, and the fact that Brother Jaleel really initiated the in germ thoughts of what would ultimately become Spirit of Mandela from the inside and from solitary, for just the simple fact of sharing information that he had from experience and study about our struggle as a dark population of this world and on this landmass, our struggle going back decades to members of street families on the inside, to basically break down how it is that on an organized level heads were able to do this and that through the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, etc. He was sharing that knowledge, and of course the plantation state can't have that. So threw him in solitary, and that fostered what became Spirit of Mandela. And so we continue to just celebrate the fact that he's home, which is incredible, and we continue to need to work and fight to bring all our freedom fighters home. And it seemed like no better way to launch the About the People project than from that place of ongoing sustained resistance.
Definitely shout out to Jaleel, who is not only now free, but I think I'm constantly impressed and amazed and honored that, for instance, I see him in our chat from time to time, including last night during the re-air of our conversation, or the premiere of our conversation with Ashanti Alston. So I think that's pretty dope to see, at Jaleel Muntakim chatting in the chat, stuff like that. Duruba bin Wahad is in the chat now, I believe, even. So shout out to him and all the other political prisoners and freedom fighters out there. Anyway, Sophia, or anybody else want to jump in? Yeah, Geechee, go ahead.
Sophia, so I wanted to ask you, and you can respond to TG. But so when we're taking this fight from civil rights to international, from U.S. law to international or human rights, what's next after the charges? Is it more raising awareness, enforcement? Like, what's next to be done now that they are charged?
You want to hold that tag?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely continuing to raise awareness is a major facet of what we're looking to do specifically with About the People, and with the launch tonight and pushing forward. And at the same time, the People's Senate is the next major push as far as continuing that work. So we raise the awareness, we continue to make clear to our family, our people, that these charges were raised and proven, by an international body, by respected members of the international humanitarian community and legal community. But at the same time, we know that the U.S. if the U.S. can't acknowledge its political prisoners, which is so patently obvious, they're not about to acknowledge that they're engaging in genocide, which they've done so much work to try and manicure its image across the world, to claim that it's some sort of human rights exemplar, which couldn't be further from the truth, obviously. But at the same time, we not only need to continue to highlight those realities, but also continue to build and connect with one another. So it's through the People's Senate that we continue that work. We were able to connect up, uptown in Harlem, Washington Heights, at the Audubon Ballroom in October, and that was extremely strong and needed. But now we need to connect with all of our family and comrades across the U.S. and its territories to build, to really create infrastructure toward self-determination. And we recognize that heads are doing that work on all levels in ways that connect with all 5 of those basic charges of genocide, but it's a question of making sure that we're all on the same page and building toward forms of power and resistance that are completely outside of the, to whatever degree possible. Obviously, there's no complete outside in this kind of environment that we find ourselves in, but we need alternate approaches to building power, building our own self-determination and resistance on those levels in a coordinated way. And so the People's Senate is the way that we see toward that. And so I'm just mad grateful and amped that we have the capacity to connect with one another on that level at this moment, as the U.S. imperial mask continues to slip off, mad blatantly.
I hope I don't get a Jared and Diallo arguing about this, but another question. So last night I was thinking about the Carter administration with Andy Young and what's the guy, Todd Anderson. And, Andy Young supposedly being fired for saying things like America has political prisoners. In terms of these charges, how do you see celebrities' role? Do you feel like you or we should tactically use some of them for them to speak of these charges as well? Like, how do you feel about, I guess, celebrities and the Black political puppets maybe, or, anybody who has some level of clout?
Yeah, I do think, thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's always a very thing in people's minds. Like, okay, so these are our, leaders, right? So what are they going to do about this? Where do they stand? And I think their role would be greatly important and greatly needed. But I also feel that, there's always the other side of it, right? Where they come in and they push a different agenda. And then everything becomes, that Kool-Aid begins to set in place. And everyone begins to drink that Kool-Aid, and the original intention goes out the window. So I am always a bit, going back to the celebrities conversation from earlier in the show, I'm always I'm someone that always is looking deep and hard in the celebrity news and staying up to date, and still have a deep affinity to the entertainment world. But this is really something that we have to own and take good care of. And if that means folks coming in and putting a different spin on it, then I really wouldn't care for their support, whether directly or just, symbolic support. That's just my take at the moment.
Right on. Forgive me on this, but I just had to quickly look this up because I felt like Ichi's reference to Andy Young's discussion of political prisoners was a little bit off from my own memory. So let me just share this very quickly from the paper of record, the New York Times. And this is, I think, a very important distinction. Andrew Young, this is from July 12th, 1978, or July 13th, 1978. Andrew Young, the chief United States representative of the United Nations today, compared dissidents in the Soviet Union to civil rights campaigners in the United States and said there were political prisoners in both countries, commenting on the trials this week of two prominent Soviet dissidents. All right, so later in the piece, it says he's asked specifically what kind of American political prisoners he was talking about. And Andy Young said, quote, "There are all varieties of political prisoners. I do think there are some people who are in prison much more because they are poor than because they are bad. But that's a problem we are working on, and one on which we are making great progress. There are problems in our system, such as sends intelligent, aggressive, poor people to jail, and in which intelligent, aggressive, and rich people have opportunities. The Soviet trials," Mr. Young said, "remind me very much of my own days in the civil rights movement when people in the South said we were communists because we wanted to exercise certain freedoms. Now the communists are saying these must be capitalist spies." He said of the dissidents on trials. In many ways, I think it's the same thing. So he wasn't talking about Mutulu, Asada, Jalil, Sundiata, Leonard. He wasn't talking about them. He was talking about his crew, who he left behind, you know, for actually adopting left politics, like Dr. King, who we've recounted here, yelled at him saying, "You're a capitalist, Andy. I'm not." Anyway, so he wasn't talking about the PPs we're talking about. He was talking about himself and his buddies who were accused of communism, as opposed to people who actually tried to bring it about. Anyway.
I agree. I agree. But in the spirit of, with, you know, again, you and Diallo's argument about, you know, the Arnold Schwarzenegger and whatever, we know Jalil did use it, I think, in an interview recently where he said that him even mention that was a way that we could kind of either latch onto it or also expose it, because we have somebody in office, speaking of political prisoners, that we have them too. Now, again, yes, he's not talking about the ones that we rocking with, but we do have one of these puppets literally acknowledging that, you know.
No, right on.
Prisons, yeah.
As if Jalil can make use of it, so be it. I just want to be clear. Andy is not to be given credit for repping political prison. That's all I was trying to say. Yeah. Tag, Sophia, or anybody, please jump in.
Just to say, I mean, as I recall, that was Brother Jalil from the inside who really prompted that question, you know. So it's another example, you know, regardless of how Andy Young, you know, decided to interpret that. Clearly it put him, you know, in the hot seat, as it were, or as it was, and clearly the question of acknowledgement of political prisoners, you know, was and remains an area that U.S. government doesn't want to engage, you know, for whatever reason, and we could just, you know, imagine what those reasons may be. But one part of this that always really just strikes me, one of our other freedom fighters who was a longstanding political prisoner of war on the inside, Sekou Odinga, you know, when he was first released finally, and you know, he spoke to this also over at the Audubon Ballroom, now the Betty Shabazz and Malcolm X Center in Wash Heights. He was saying that, you know, there are dizzying numbers of political prisoners, especially, you know, since 9/11, you know, with all of the heads, you know, throughout the Muslim world who have been targeted, you know, for all kinds of bogus charges that are highly politicized. So, you know, the political prisoner question has only, you know, been exacerbated since Andy Young made that statement on so many levels. So yeah, the fact remains that they're here, they're on the inside. Thankfully, many of them have come home in recent years, but many more of them are languishing right now. And our comrade, our dear freedom fighter, Dr. Mutulu Shakur, remains on the inside, with cancer, facing just life-threatening illness. And we know even right now, for what's termed the African American.
Oh, they got him. They heard him talking that good stuff, and they got him.
See that's Andy Young. We was talking about Andy Young. See,
Andy Young's boys cut the internet. So Sophia, listen, we only had a couple minutes left anyway. Let me let you wrap it up for us and give us any concluding thoughts on the work you all are doing. And obviously you, Tag, and others are welcome back here anytime. And Tag, we're just asking for some final thoughts here, because unfortunately we do have to move on. But anyway, Sophia, let me start with you, and then
Yeah. So I think this is just an incredible moment and time in our history, and this podcast is going to really show the different elements of things, from the history, from the past to the present, and even to what's coming for the future. I think we are trying to really do a number of segments within each episode that captures the spirit of the human being, that captures the soul of people, and especially warms our hearts in these past 2 years. So one of the things that we're hoping that people are able to know is that these discussions may trigger some of us. It may cause us to go back to some things that we left behind, but it's also something that we're able to study from, to learn from, and to use in different areas. And really, again, it's about the people. So it's about us, and it's about what we're, as a people, what we're trying to do, which is, again, achieve liberation and be able to live our lives and not be in this predicament of having to constantly fight with the state. And I hope that this project is able to influence many more to join in on something somewhere that speaks to your soul about a more humane world that we want to achieve. So that's it.
Right on. Thank you, Sophia. And Andy, I'm with you. Ever since the Subway Predator and Jared Trump, I've been trying to save my name too, man. So I'm with you on that. Tag, any final thoughts for you this morning? And again, you are always welcome back. And we appreciate you both coming through this morning.
Well, we appreciate y'all greatly. We appreciate the platform. BPM has been doing heavy lifting out here, engaging these questions, and we must continue to advance the political line, and continue to keep our consciousness on the up and vigilant. I mean, we're just getting the rolls off of the Oath Keepers, et cetera, et cetera. It just continues. The contradictions continue to pile on. So I just echo what the comrade just spoke to. Greatly appreciate what y'all are doing, and all of the work that's going into it. And hit us up, spiritofmandela.org. You can still peep the entire tribunal, the full weekend of testimony and cultural activity, and just the reality of the genocide that goes on. That's at tribunal2021.com. And About the People, we're launching tonight. We ideally will continue to connect with this platform here at Black Power Media. And we have a YouTube channel that we just started up for these purposes at About the People. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, etc., both Spirit of Mandela and About the People. And just check for us here on BPM. We want to continue to build with y'all, and that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much. We're definitely going to continue to support your work as best we can, and look forward to hearing more from all of you. Thank you very much. And as we always say, like Fred Hampton used to say, we say peace because we know you're willing to fight for it, and we'll catch you both later, and we'll continue here at I Mix What I Like in just a second, and the discussion about Pan-Africanism and reparations. So don't go anywhere. Much more coming up at I Mix What I Like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let me get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, no. Shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Tree. I'm taking on 3 of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh my goodness, behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't gotta look, it's falling. Oh my goodness, this guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, good people, welcome back to I Mix What I Like right here, Black Power Media, and we're very happy to be joined by our next special guest, Jessica Ann Mitchell Aiwuyor, who, among many other things, is a reparationist and multicultural communication specialist based in Washington, D.C., in the Washington, D.C. area. She's the founder of the National Black Cultural Information Trust, Inc., and the NBCI Trust shares cultural information, stories, and resources that uplift the collective freedom of Black communities while correcting cultural misinformation. Among many other things, she has a background in studying Pan-Africanism and has long been in struggle as a member of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, otherwise known as NCOBRA. And we welcome you, Jessica J.A.M., to the program. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's a pleasure. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So we wanted to, first of all, big shout out to Josh and Aaliyah, who have been working tirelessly behind the scenes and helping us put together this show, and are be credited with making this connection. I'm very grateful for it. So let me just start with some broad questions. Where are we in the Pan-African struggle from your perspective, and how does reparations as an issue fit within that struggle?
Well, I mean, we're in a lot of different places in the Pan-African struggle. And I think the point of view I'm going to always come from is, of course, from descent of enslaved Africans in the United States, and how we collaborate with others throughout the Pan-African world. And I think that the current state is, there's a lot of different collaborations. But there's also a lot of different confusions. And I think right now, as a communication specialist, one of my main focus is what is happening with everyday people that aren't necessarily within the Pan-Africanist movement. What is the feeling on the ground, and what is the feeling among everyday people? And I think there's just a lot of confusion because there are a lot of false narratives. And so it makes it harder to build, because we are building from a place of misinformation and miseducation.
Okay, right on. So one of the questions, and I appreciate Josh actually setting this one up for me. I want to make sure I credit him for this, because this, I think, is a great question for you in particular. What are some of the most common misconceptions about the African slave trade that you encounter? And I would also want to connect that to how did those misconceptions continue to negatively impact Pan-African efforts?
Well, I think it was a couple of weeks ago that I just kind of out of rage did this thread on Twitter that kind of went viral. And it was about the African sold us narrative. Or that at least that's what I'm calling it. Where whenever we get in these conversations about Pan-Africanism, Black collective activism, and or reparations, someone brings up, well, they sold us. The Africans sold us, and so why should we work with them? They owe us reparations, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is like there really is this narrative among some people that a group of Africans came together, rounded up another group, just one group, surrounded us all. And this is what some Hebrew Israelites teach, actually. Surrounded us all, shipped us off, and they were like at the shores waving bye, like Kamala Harris in that gif. And that was it. Like they were like, it's been real. Y'all have fun, whatever. But that's not what actually happened. Different kingdoms and ethnic groups were warring. There was a lot of Europeans sowing confusion. There was the gun slave cycle that took place. A lot went on. And most of the ethnic groups or kingdoms that people point out for saying, well, they sold people into slavery, they were evil and were participating in the slave trade. Most of those, we're also the descendants of those ethnicities and those kingdoms. So, and another thing that people kind of misconceive is that we're the only victims, those of us in the diaspora, or those of us that are African Americans specifically, even without even thinking about the rest of the diaspora. There are some that believe we're the only victims, let alone just forgetting about the harm and the depopulation that took place on the continent, families being torn apart, the destruction that took place, people on the continent also being descendants of enslaved Africans themselves. So it's a lot of confusion. People think we're the only people that were enslaved or the only people that went through turmoil and pain. And it's just not so. And so when we have these false narratives, we create these blanket stories about each other that kind of makes it hard for understanding, for reconciliation, and for Black collective activism.
So real quick, so I think when people talk about this selling off and this we call it buckra participation, we forget about that. There's Black capitalists, and there's been here around for a long time participating with the buckras. But my question is, so when you think of ADOS, one, do you think that the movement or the people, they have some level of political clout and power? And then two, they seem to have, like, some of them at least have some level of class analysis where they call out Black capitalists. So one, do you think they have some kind of clout or political power? And two, is it ways to tactically work with them, or they too far gone?
I do think they have some political clout and power. It's very small right now, but you never want to underestimate people. And I think one of the things that they do effectively is they do organize. Even in their small groups, they will get together and organize. I know firsthand because whenever my name is on a flyer, they make those phone calls quick to try to remove me or whatever. But one of the things they do is support each other, even, often through wrong or right. And they will make the phone call. They will show up at the events. They will talk to the representative. They will do a lot of different things. And I think that with being able to do that level of organizing, people do edge their way in and get some type of political clout. I think I'm on the fence about the collaboration piece of it. I mean, I think one thing we all agree on is that we deserve reparations, but then there's a lot of other pieces that come along with that. Like, what do we mean when we say reparations? And I don't think we're all coming from the same point of view on what reparations actually are and how they are to be implemented and what it means to have reparative justice for Black America. And so it kind of frightens me to be kind of having these ongoing conversations about what it means to be Black, what it means to be not even a person of African descent, because there's often this denial or rejection of Africanity. So I think I wouldn't collaborate at this point, but it's up to whichever group that feels that they can do that. If you can navigate the anti-immigration stances, if you can navigate the anti-Africanity, if you can navigate trying to put different groups of people of African descent against each other, then go for it. But I can't work in that way.
Hey,
You know,
wait, my bad, Diallo. I'm reclaiming my time. I'm hogging the mic now. So, no. So one more question. So we talked with and I think you got some South Carolina roots. We talked to another sister with some Caribbean and Carolina and Gullah roots as well. But what are your thoughts about and the connections with KarmaCon? We know they have like a 10-point plan of reparations. I'm not sure if we agree with all them 10 points, but do you all work with them? What's the connection with them?
Well, CARICOM works with other people of African descent in the diaspora. So like they will do meetings and strategies with National African American Reparation Commission and other groups that they find are like-minded, and they work together by sharing strategies and having events together and building up the global reparations movement. CARICOM is more centered on Caribbean nations, but one of the things that people keep bringing up when we talk about the whole ADOS movement and the African American reparations movement in general is they say, well, CARICOM does it. They center themselves. And the thing is, when you break down the CARICOM 10-point plan, by the time reparations are implemented based on that plan, anyone that lives within those states that are a part of CARICOM, even if you aren't a person that is a descendant of enslaved Africans there, as long as you're living there at the time, you would benefit from their reparations plan. It isn't broken up based on like bloodline or anything like that. So that's one of the misconceptions of CARICOM. I know people have different thoughts about the overall organization, but it isn't broken down in a way that I know of, sideline a specific group of people or make another group of people of African descent second-class citizens.
Go ahead, Diallo. You may speak now.
Well, there's a lot brought up, but I'll try to keep it centered because, I've had to make a distinction between what is true reparations and what I've come to call prosperity politics. Mm-hmm. And reparations, as I was instructed by people like Dr. Conrad Worrell and Samori Grace, Bill Grace, was, a restoration of African people to the position we were before the atrocities, mm-hmm. where reparations has devolved into, especially because of the efforts of people like the ADOS and foundational Black Americans into cut the check prosperity politics, you know, where I could see a scenario where Black people get some money and then go and invest in private prison stocks, you know, Geo Corp,
And
you know,
AFRICOM.
where we're buying stock in Boeing and Raytheon and military, you know. So right. So I think with the factions that have arose, I don't, you were suggesting that if we could overcome certain hurdles, we can merge these two points of views.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I was asked if I thought it was possible, and I was saying that you would have to jump through all those hurdles and you would have to be able to ignore all that in order to collaborate. And I said I wouldn't be able to ignore all that.
Well, the bottom line is we're at the same position we were in the 60s, where you had integrationists and liberationists, and now we have economic liberationists and economic integrationists. What is being argued for in modern reparations, and correct me if I'm wrong, is giving Black people the material resources, the economic boost, so that we can fully integrate into the U.S. economic system and take full advantage of Western capitalist accumulation, so that we can invest, secure property, and then enjoy the spoils of empire, which is anathema and hostile to any type of reparations that I would imagine. You know, it would just increase Black consumption capacity and Black access to spaces that have economic barriers for our entry, such as white universities and white communities and between the thighs of white women, as you know, Dr. Clark would say. To me, we're at a point now where the reparation movement really needs a serious reformation, for lack of a better term.
Well, you know, I will say this. I've been a part of other groups that are not as online as ADOS and FBA, and it gives this assumption that they are the modern reparations movement. That is the narrative that they built, but it's not necessarily true. Very few of them are in either long-standing or hardcore activist reparationist circles where there's all these various groups working together and collaborating. Now, there are some within these meetings that we have that include sometimes up to 20 to 30 different reparationist organizations around the nation, but they're really in the minority at attendance at these groups and on the ground and within the overall Pan-Africanist reparations activism. But that is an issue because with them being so in your face online, that is the impression that people get, that this is where the reparations movement is now. Now, I got a lot of thoughts on that. I think it has to do with, it could be a generational issue. It has to do with how we as Pan-Africanists utilize communications to reach the people and to do our own storytelling and build our narrative, which is kind of where things got lost. There was this time period where, for example, in Cobra was the kind of like the top in the 1990s, and it just kind of, once the internet came into being and social media was the place where everyone gets their information, it allowed for other parties to enter and build up these other narratives and kind of take over the digital space as the modern reparationist movement, when it really isn't, and is in fact fairly new and in an infant phase. But going back to what you were saying about basically cut the check, like someone said in the comments, and the making our reparations about an economic boost, even that theory is flawed. Like, even people have been pushing this, if we get a certain amount, if they split up this $14 trillion check and send us, only us, the African descendants of enslaved people in America, if they only do that, cut out immigrants, we'll get this big boost, like you say, and we'll get out, we'll erase the racial wealth gap. We'll get out of all this, which is not going to happen. But I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here, but that's the thought process. And what you're saying.
First of all, you in a room filled with Debbie Downers and
Okay.
or whatever. Like you like, don't worry. Sorry to cut
Okay.
you off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the height of this cut the check movement is we gotta erase the racial wealth gap. And for some people, it's really not even about liberation or freedom or upward mobility. It's about, when will America make me white? When will I get, like you said, the spoils of the empire? That is what this has turned into in digital spaces among those voices. So the idea of reparations itself becomes Western imperialism, but make it Black. It becomes make me, or actually just make me white, which would mean fold me into the American dream, because we built this. And I hate that phrase. I just hate that phrase. And I got beat up on it one time when I was tweeting about it. Maybe I didn't say it the right way, but we built this. But I really hate that. The reason why is because we built this, but we built it as captives. It wasn't our dream. It wasn't our ancestors' goal. It wasn't their legacy. It wasn't under their control. And hence, no matter how much we scream we built this, it's never going to be ours. And we're always going to have a foot on our neck. And even if it was ours, or we were kind of grafted in, it would still be dangerous. And it would still be something that would need to be dismantled. But we built this. And when people scream that, it's like, make me a part of it. I deserve the spoils of that, of this war machine. But going back to the economic boost part, one of the things I keep trying to explain to people is, even if you had the check, you would not get in that place that you think you would go to. I don't know how much people are saying a $200,000 check or $300,000 check would lift us out of, would close the racial wealth gap, whatever number it is. It doesn't matter, because when it comes to the United States of America, we should know by now that the money is not going to save you. So I have witnessed, as being a part of different nonprofits and folks that actually sue banks for discrimination, they will lose money on purpose to spite Black communities. They will refuse to build a bank in a Black community just because. You can lay out to them how much profit they would make if they would just open this bank in the community. And there are arguments for why we would want that, because Black communities are underbanked, and so like we end up going to check cash in places and pawning our cars and doing all kinds of stuff, and getting all these extra fees because we're using other systems to try to get access to money. But when you spell it out for the banks, they do this consistently. They don't care. When banks have bank-owned homes, which is homes that they've taken back either through foreclosure or some other process, when they are in Black communities, activists have had to sue to get them to cut their own grass, to fix their own window, to fix their own door. It's your home. It's a bank-owned property or a foreclosed property. But because it's in a Black community, you devalue the community and say, well, we just don't see those properties are as important. And they send contractors to the white communities where they own bank-owned properties to make sure the grass is cut, to make sure the doors are fixed, to make sure the windows, to make sure nobody can break in and tear up the place. When they don't do this in Black communities, it devalues the homes of everyone else that lives there. It brings the property down, the prices of the value of everyone else that actually lives there, and it puts them in harm's way too, because of homes that are dilapidated around them. But banks often will not fix it, even though they could easily fix these homes and resell them and boost the overall value of the Black neighborhood. They will lose money to spite you. They do it consistently. So
Yeah,
you get
I
and it's
Diallo, my bad.
Hmm.
I wanted to real quick because Josh had set this up for me as well, and J.A.M, if I may call you that with all respect, I hope check me if that's inappropriate. But J.A.M, you have also, because I wanted to make sure I mentioned that you have in the past worked as the associate director of communications at the National Fair Housing Alliance. Where you spearheaded the strategic communications for federal housing discrimination lawsuits against Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, and Facebook Inc. So I did want you to say more about that work at some point, and maybe you can elaborate on that in response to what I think Diallo wants to raise. But so let me let Diallo do that. But I want to make sure that gets highlighted. And that you come back and fold that into your ongoing responses, if you would, please. But Diallo, go ahead, man. Let me let you.
Well, in all these instances, whether it's white aggression, that's what it's just the systematic and systemic white aggression, all the way, and from contemporary to historical need for reparations. Bobby Wright articulated that behavior is changed and maintained by its consequences. And I've seen such, immaculate records and detailing for justifications for the case for reparations, specific companies, specific families, and what they call estates for reparations. And this has been going on for since before I was born. And I would talk to individuals, fully vested in the reparations movement. And there's two things we have to understand about reparations. Number one, it's not a moral appeal. And number two, the facts of or the worthiness is irrelevant. And because reparations is not a moral appeal, because the people who have morality are never on the case for committing atrocities that would lead them to have to pay reparations. So the people who commit reparations are immoral and amoral. And, the facts are irrelevant to the case, because the majority of white Americans, when they are polled, believe that Black people are the ones who are indebted to America. They believe that we receive unfair amount of support from the government, that the government is biased in favor of Black people, and that Black people that Black people in the United States were done a service by being removed from the dark continent and brought to this land of freedom and opportunity. So the majority population with the most money, the most political power, and the most guns have it completely flipped on its head. So understanding all of that, I don't understand the consistent ongoing effort within the reparations movement. It seems that the reparations movement, the formal offline reparations movement, does not seem to acknowledge the environment for which it's organizing and taking appropriate action in response, because the only thing that has ever gotten any population reparations is their ability to sanction their enemies. The people who have committed the atrocities have some vulnerability or some resource that they need that can be denied them by their former or current victims. And it is a negotiation of power based on the ability and will to impose consequences. And I don't see the Black reparations movement ever acknowledging that, let alone moving in that direction. And it frustrates me greatly.
I think we're all frustrated. And I think, definitely the issue is being able to have consequences. HR 40 is stalled right now. It made a historic jump and then it stalled. Reparationists tried everything, I won't say everything, but tried a number of different strategies to move HR 40 along. Various campaigns, constant talking back and forth with representatives, doing multiple levels of outreach with the federal government and local government. And then it was the push for Joe Biden to do an executive order, which that has not happened. And that is what is currently being pushed if we don't move beyond that and come to another, think of another strategy. Well, part of the problem is that there aren't major consequences other than we could say, well, the vote, which is something that other groups like ADOS, the Freedmen, and etc. have said. But then that, I know people have different thoughts on the voting process, but that would affect certain Black communities as well. So I think that's something that people it's just part of the ongoing struggle. How do you force reparative justice when you don't have a significant amount of forceful power to make it happen? And I mean, I think that's just part of the ongoing conversation where people are trying to make it work and continue to do their activism to keep moving it forward.
Right. Insanity, doing the same thing, hoping for a different outcome.
I don't think people are doing the same thing, though. I think people are navigating the best way that they can with the resources that they have. If we acknowledge that we are a colonized people, if we acknowledge that we are in a land that doesn't acknowledge our full humanity and worth and etc., then our movements for freedom and liberation are always going to be suppressed and very difficult to move forward. It doesn't mean it's impossible, no. So people are navigating, and activists are navigating the best ways that they know how under these conditions at this time.
I think you're being generous saying that they are figuring out the best way. I do believe that there are tactics and strategies available to us that we neglect. I ask activists in my own community all the time, name something that we're fighting for today that we weren't fighting for 100 years ago. And generally, when they give it some thought, they just say, yeah, we're fighting for the same thing, from police brutality to housing issues to reparations. And then I ask them, name a tactic, strategy, or method that we employ today that wasn't employed 100 years ago. And then they start to think internally instead of looking at the greater society, saying, yeah, we're fighting for the same things over the last 100 years.
Podcasts and tweets, brother. Podcasts and tweets.
We had the North Star, we had the Negro newspapers, and we had, Radio Free Dixie. We had whatever technology we had. I'm utilizing the technology. I'm not excluding myself from this critique. I'm not. So, but when they look internally and say, damn, we are doing the same thing now that we did 100 years ago. So I do think with the advent of new technology, and access to be able to communicate across the globe instantaneously, I do think there are new techniques and new methods and strategies and tactics that we can employ that we just don't, because we're, as much as we are concerned and radical, we're also relatively comfortable as well. This is a relatively comfortable fight. I'm about to, go overseas to a justice conference and work with some researchers to collect data. The socialism conference was just here on the south side of Chicago. My wife went to socialism conference and air conditioning and lattes for all. So, and I'm not against comfort. Lord knows I love my comforts. But I think we have to start to cultivate and employ and deploy new, more aggressive strategies and tactics in this struggle, because we're gearing up for an internal struggle that I think these ADOS people are gaining a lot of grounds, because they're taking advantage of a lot of the psychopathologies that have been cultivated in African people over generations. And they're, instead of challenging those pathologies, the menticide, they're grafting onto the menticide. like I said, it's prosperity politics. They took a book, a play, they took prosperity gospel and turned it from your blessings will come from the Lord if you are loyal to your blessings will come from the government if you are a citizen. That's all they did. Other than that, it's everything that the prosperity gospel was saying to us in the 90s and early 2000s. You know, and we're running out of time. The life-sustaining capacity of the earth is being destroyed by the very system we're trying to integrate into and get a leg up in.
Just as a reminder to Diallo's point about the enjoying comfort, this is where I'm at. Just don't forget that we have the right to be lazy, and you know. Anyway,
no, that brother said if we sleep, you don't deserve to be successful. What's the mustache guy?
Oh, for real? I don't know
Steve,
who that is.
Steve, what's his name?
Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey said you don't sleep if you want to achieve anything in life. Sleeping is for rich people and poor people. If you in that, if you don't want to be poor and you do want to be, don't. If you ain't rich yet, no sleep.
Yeah, because it's a money game, not an integrity game.
Grind, right? You know, you have
okay.
slurs like capitalism and then trying to have some rest. What is wrong with you?
So listen. So while we on entertainment, let me ask this question to J.A.M. So I just finished. I don't know. I'm gonna blame Onye and Onye, Ricky, and Jackie for making me watch this Hunk for Jesus shit. But I watched it, and
the what?
Hunk for Jesus. Listen.
Honk for Jesus.
Honk. You know I'm gully.
Save your soul. Yeah.
Hunk for Jesus. Anyway, so well, you know, you know about the issues with the church and I mean multiple things, but
the new show. I got that in my
movie,
I got that saved. It came out already.
Yes, the movie.
I mean, but it came out already.
Yeah.
The movie. That's right. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
My bad. I missed it. I
might send you down a rabbit hole, and it's probably broad too. But when you think about the Hunk for Jesus, you think about liberation theology, and then you think about reparations. Just broadly speak, you know what comes to mind. Maybe even speak to what it's been like to engage the religious church community when it talks about reparations. But I don't know. I just want to start there. I can give you some more things to give you more meat to it, but just broadly speak, liberation theology, Hunk for Jesus, and reparations. Any thoughts?
Where you want me to tie in Hunk for Jesus though? With
I mean, if we got reparations, the church gonna be fed. You gonna tie some of that reparations at least. I hope.
Hey, shout out to Jupiter Hammond, who, by the way, got the link fixed for the Hidden History of Zionism piece that I was talking about the other day. So that's now in the show notes to the last Answering Critics thing. So definitely check that out and read that piece. And thanks, Jupiter. But sorry, go ahead. Sorry for that interruption. Go ahead.
Well, I think that a number of churches are actually coming on board with reparations or reparative justice initiatives. A lot of them are actually either multiracial or white or like European, not necessarily all of the different Black denominations. When it comes to the churches that are involved or coming to be more involved in reparations, it is the ones that are historically white that know they owe reparations to people of African descent because either they were discriminatory in some way or they had their own enslaved Africans. So that's where we're at with the church. I'm not really sure about Black churches themselves with their own reparations initiatives. But I could ask. I could be just late on the ball with that. I'm part of the
because this is James Foreman Black Manifesto, right? This talk about repeating old struggles, right? This argument around the churches need specifically to be paying reparations and whatnot. This is, if I'm not mistaken, that same or similar argument. Anyway, sorry again. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's happening. I mean, some of them have created these they've started putting money aside or trying to raise millions of dollars so that they can give money. And they have started distributing funds to different Black-led organizations. So this would be a part of the various reparative justice initiatives done by some of these churches. And I'm just not recalling the specific denomination right now, so I'm sorry about that. But that is happening. There are churches taking up this mantle. Now, in terms of Black churches leading or being a part of the cause, there are ministers that are a part of the National African American Reparations Commission. I'm not sure if overall denominations have their own reparations causes. I don't think the AME Church does, but I can ask. I am AME, but I just don't think we have that at the moment. And I think that you were bringing up Honk for Jesus. You were saying that people would get like their tithes would go, their reparations checks would go to the church.
I mean, I feel like if the pastors want the money, they should be pushing for the congregants to get the reparations. It seems like they
that would make sense.
They're gonna be loaded.
I just think that we're not all again on the same page with reparations and understanding what it is and even caring about it a lot. It's a hot button issue, but it's ironically not like the lead issue for Black America. Right. And so I don't think a lot of pastors are even, or major churches are even tuned in. It's happening more.
Well,
but it's just there.
If we understand reparations to be to restore people to the status that they were prior to the atrocity, reparations in relationship to Black people in the church could only be a mass exodus of Black people from alien faiths, from Christianity to Islam, Hinduism. That's the only reparations we could ever have. As long as we are embracing that, I don't know how we can consider ourselves repaired, because I don't know of any mass Black Christians or Muslims prior to unjust incursions and infiltration of our lands and our communities and our cultures and our mind state. Also, there's no such thing as liberation theology. If you read the sacred text of those religions, they are in direct contradiction to human freedom, human autonomy. They are racist, sexist, pro-slavery. So there is no such thing as liberation theology. And if you look at most people who can be identified as liberation theologists, their biggest opposition came from their formal religious organization that they were a party to. You look at Latin America and the Catholic liberation theologists, it was the Catholic Church that subverted them. If you look at Malcolm X, he was murdered by his own cult. So there is no such thing as liberation theology. The only liberation theology that exists in the world is liberation from theology.
Well, I mean,
ooh, Diallo boy, you be dropping a lot in there. So just very quickly, we gotta shout out the state. It wasn't just the cult that killed Malcolm. The state had all manner involvement in that.
If the nation dealt with a traitor, if they dealt with Malcolm like a nation is supposed to deal with a traitor, what business is it of yours, Jared?
Right.
Don't be cold.
Remember.
Was he your traitor or was he ours?
Remember that Farrakhan has a job beyond necessarily being factual. He has a job to organize his community and defend it against criticism. That was not necessarily an admission that. Anyway, there's a lot that can be said about it, so I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want to take Jen. We only have
the way. If we dealt with him the way the nation is supposed to deal with the traitor, if that is not an admission,
it's not. Look, I'm not defending the nation, but you have to understand.
Okay,
you have to understand how messaging works, and I think there's a lot of different ways to interpret that. And if I wanted to falsely claim credit and increase my toughness and my street credibility in the face of public accusation, that's exactly how I would have said that to my own audience. So I think we have to be clear who he was talking to, where he was Savior's Day, when he said that, who his audience was, and what his intended use of that.
Are you
organizing
a liar?
Diallo
Are you calling the minister a liar?
I'm saying there are different
foot of the prophet. You calling that
J.A.M.
man a lie? You think that lies, anything other than honey and milk, flows from his mouth?
J.A.M. Diallo's trying to get me set up. So let me come back to you and ask any concluding thoughts regarding, for instance, in the few minutes we have left, what would you like us to know is yours or
I am calling the Nation of Islam a murderous cult. There have been people who have lost their lives for nothing more than deviating from the dogma and the delusions of cults. So yes, I am. Yes, absolutely. Because he called himself. He said, "I'm not a killer, but don't push me." He said, "I will kill you." The man's quote. He called himself murderer. So absolutely yes. Absolutely, Mbo. I am calling him a murderer. He said that he did not kill Malcolm, but he created the environment, and that is called
stochastic terrorism.
Terrorism. So he is terrorist. If I say words that lead directly to death of another person, I can't be charged. It is called conspiracy. So bring him up on RICO, if nothing else. Yes, I am. But he's not a liar, though. I don't think he's a liar. I never called him a liar.
Stop doing the state work and let J.A.M. go ahead and respond. You talk about breaking up that talk. Go ahead, J.A.M.
No, I really wanted, I on so many different levels, I'm enjoying this, but J.A.M, I did want to have you take a few minutes to lay out whether it's your personal or in Cobra's official view, or what you think our collective official view should be of reparations. Like, how do you define it, and how would you like to see it play out, or what are the versions of it playing out that you would like us to work from? And then we can always come back to this stochastic terrorist discussion. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, my point of view kind of aligns with Cobra's point of view and Nart's point of view. So Cobra has these 5 key injuries, and you can forgive my mommy brain because I probably won't remember them all. But for example, health, education, housing, criminal justice, etc. And NARC has a 10-point plan that would kind of lay out how that goes, which includes right to repatriation. But for me, reparations is about restoring us as a people, and not just restoring the ills that happened to our ancestors, and not even just restoring to the ills that happen to us today, but being forward thinking on strategies and initiatives that will secure the future of the future generations of African and children of African descent. Right now, we have multiple majority Black cities with no clean drinking water. We're dealing with housing crisis as as we always are. We don't have equal access to health care. We're consistently criminalized. I mean, we, like Diallo said, we lay out these things each time. We know that this is the ongoing struggle, and remedying those things and making sure that they're not issues for us in the future, while also solidifying the groundwork for collective Black liberation and Black activism, is what I would see. Where I see reparations needs to go. I think, though, unfortunately, we get tied up in many different issues. ADOS, FBA, it's just one. It's just one thing. And then I wanted to raise, that's also, remember, those are not necessarily that I believe 100% natural. The growth of those movements aren't 100% natural.
Oh, no question.
There's been research about this.
That's called AstroTurf, not grassroots.
No question.
Big
no
difference.
question.
So we have to point that out, that yeah, we need new strategies, and other folks are taking advantage of the technology we have today and social media today. But It wasn't a 100% natural progression. So you have to also understand we're navigating that. We're navigating a whole system, online system that certain people are allowed to take advantage of for certain reasons. If you post something, if you could go viral for posting about political prisoners, you would have. But folks go viral every day for saying the Africans don't like us, or I'm not African, or it's very easy to stoke those flames and go viral and no one care. Not no one care, but the technology companies certainly do not care. You could be a master manipulator on Twitter Spaces and go viral every weekend, and it won't be a problem as long as you're spewing hatred for other African people. So we have to understand we're dealing with that. Another issue I think is I think we need to name things in order to explain what's happening. A lot of people don't understand the falsehoods behind the African sold us narrative. So we have to do better at storytelling for people to understand what actually happened to us collectively. And I'm going to drop a little bomb here in the last 5 minutes. But like even among Pan-Africanists, there's issues. I mean, right now there are people. I mean, yeah, I know y'all know that, but
no, we're pure over here. We're so pure.
Yeah, issues that you would think we would know to navigate differently. So right now, there's this push for the return of the Benin bronzes to Nigeria, and there are actually activists, Pan-Africanists, that are agreeing with, that are creating this initiative to block the return of the bronzes and actually begging Western institutions to not return them, because if they get returned, they'll go to the hands of the descendants of slave traders.
Oh, wow.
And it's really becoming a thing. And, the more I talk about it, I won't even get into the whole issue.
Yeah, OB has my initial reaction to that. You can't be a Pan-Africanist and reach that. That doesn't make any sense. But
the idea, or reparationists, I'll say some reparationists, long-time reparationists are about to push this thing where they're going to block it because they say, well, we tried to reach out to the folks in Benin City or Nigerians and they won't speak with us. So we're going to try to block it. They already issued a petition to the UK government and petition in Germany, France, etc., to say, well, if you take it out of the Western institutions, those of us that sold off won't have access to it. They should give us co-ownership of those bronzes. And because some of the bronzes were melted down from Manilas that were used in exchange for enslaved Africans. So don't return the Benin bronzes. It'll all go to the descendants of slave traders. It's very deep. And much of the issue that I have with this is, number one, we're running to our colonial daddies to try to be the arbiters of justice when they are the ones that scattered us around the world and then also enslaved people and colonized people in Nigeria. And then there's this idea that everyone still there is the descendant of slave traders and not also the descendant of the enslaved and also the descendant of the colonized. And there's a complete rejection of sovereignty when it comes to the Benin Kingdom. There's this complete rejection of us finding other solutions and ways to deal with internal issues together as Africans and African descendants. And so running to Western powers to take control of the situation. It's a lot. We don't have a lot of time, but I think that what happens is we can become so short-sighted, just like with the cut the check movement, that we don't realize when these type of issues come up, we need a better way of navigating them, or else we become pawns of Western imperialism. But
Jessica Ann Mitchell Aiwuyor, it has been a pleasure having you on this morning. And I want to say, again, big thanks to Josh for helping put this together. And I would love for you to come back whenever and as often as you like to continue these discussions and to get into more of the details, etc. So I will follow up offline, but online. I just want to publicly thank you and welcome you back anytime. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I have a website my org just launched about reparations.org that has a lot of different information about what comprehensive reparations can mean for Black America, and also some historical documentation for people to look through different strategies and methods. We really tried to make it robust. So about reparations.org.
So it's about reparations.org. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So do you ever use your introduction music by Guy, the J.A.M song?
No, they used that for me in college though a lot.
You
I would be on campus.
That's why we don't let you talk. Now everybody knows. Thank you. I expect an apology from everybody who claimed to.
No, listen.
Talk. Now y'all see why.
You talking about Ice-T? I can talk about J.A.M.
Ice-T is a treasure.
You crazy? Guy is a treasure too. Talk about
any day.
Guy is a treasure.
Teddy Rock.
Versus Ice-T versus Guy. Come on.
I see.
Literally, that's what I do in college. Jam, jam. Every time I walk around campus, but yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So she's over it, in other words. But anyway, as V says here, thank you, J.A.M. We appreciate you. Look forward to talking with you again, and definitely reach out anytime that this platform, this show can help you. Definitely let us know. And like I said, I'll be following up. So thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Peace. So fellas, I didn't, as some of the comments had said, we didn't want to drag her into the silliness. If you want to take a few minutes to finish that, I'm happy to do that. Big shout out to ZZ Lion Dad. I do appreciate Bro Diallo, fallacious sarcasm of true talent. Of course, Dr. Ball, pettiness. There is context of the conversation. Shout out to Geechee. Happy Friday, love. Right on. Thank you very much.
I don't know if I'm offended or flattered by that.
Me either. But it came with $10, so I'm flattered.
Okay.
That's it. A couple others I want to highlight here just before, and then if you all want, we could take a few more minutes. But Andre Taylor, thank you for joining the platform and welcome. Yeah, we did make clear. I think we made clear that this is not an FBA ADOS space. I think that was
what is B1 and B2? What is that?
Oh man, you know what? I just lost the comment. I unhighlighted it. My bad. Put that back in the chat if you would. What to answer Diallo's question? I'll put back up. And I do want to highlight. Please check the Twitter, mine or Dr. Cosman Burrow's Twitter feed. He did post the classic video from the homecoming of Sekou Odinga. Shout out to Nkechi Taifa, whose house hosted that event, and I had the pleasure of being there as well. It was a legendary moment, and I'm glad the video is now online. I'll definitely share it more. So yeah, right on. Thanks to Leah for reminding of that. I do see similar mythology in the simple comparison I would see between the myths of Africans selling us and the myth of Black buying power is just that these are myths that are promoted to discourage the kind of unity in education and analysis and organizing we need to get to. So that's an easy one. The only difference between ADOS and FBA that I'm aware of is that Tariq Nasheed has the copyright over or the trademark over FBA. And as I understood, that was the sole difference. There is no real political difference. It was just who could make the most money off of the hashtag. And yep, that's what I was talking about when J.A.M was talking about how banks are willing to lose money if it means devaluing the property and potential wealth of Black communities. Absolutely. Deutsche Bank losing money on a few Black neighborhoods is nothing compared to the trillions that they're making overtly and under the table as they and others have been exposed, and Bank of America have over the years been exposed and engaging in HSBC and USB, BC. I think all these banks have been caught in money laundering and drug trading and all kinds of so losing some money on some Black community property is nothing if it means maintaining the racial hierarchies. Sorry we didn't get to this question, Coco. I would have loved to have her talk a little bit about that as well. This is hilarious. Panhandleism, that's hilarious. Now, just to come back to that, to segue back, if you all like, I am not, this is what I keep saying about our struggle with nuance. I am not defending Farrakhan and the nation. I am simply saying that if we want to really get into an analysis of that speech and then the realities of what the nation's role was in Malcolm's assassination, I think it could be argued that, like in many spaces with people who are activists and organizers within their own communities or centers of influence, they will make use of or play loose with reality if it means encouraging more support for their organizational work. Even people that I am through.
You're suggesting that the Nation of Islam would be strengthened by creating a myth that they killed Malcolm means that the Nation of Islam is an organization or a cult that we should shun. You're like,
okay,
oh,
I'm not defending. Again, I'm not defending.
I'm not to lie and say, oh, I didn't murder that person. I just pretended like I murdered that person because it would bring me clout. Why? What kind of organization would benefit from killing one of our greatest freedom fighters?
No question. But Diallo, again, nuance and clarity. Those are two. Wait a minute, Diallo. Wait a minute. Those are two different things.
And can I say something else?
Wait, Diallo. Let me finish. There are two different things that I want to be clear on. One, I'm trying to speak to the accuracy historically of who and why Malcolm was, how Malcolm was killed and who set it in motion and who benefits the most. And it is not the Nation of Islam that benefits the most. But second to that, I am saying that so I'm also not saying that we should defend the nation and support the nation and not shun the nation. I'm not, those are two different things. I'm simply saying there's an accuracy about the historical reality of Malcolm's assassination, and then there's a separate issue of should we or should we not shun the Nation of Islam. I'm not saying we should defend, support. I'm simply saying it shouldn't be taken necessarily as an accurate or honest admission of guilt in the way that he delivered that speech.
I mean, if these rappers get on here, that's Young Thug, his own lyrics being used against him. You know, don't spit the lyrics if you don't want them to come back on you. But beyond that, why do we always ignore what Malcolm said before he was murdered? Why do we not factor in the honest and clear and intelligent words of Malcolm X, who Malcolm X said firebombed his house, who Malcolm X said was harassing him? Now, Malcolm X laid it out and said that
hold up, Diallo, then be accurate, because he also said he knows the nation does not have the power to do certain things to impact. So he was saying, so be clear now.
That's what I'm getting to. I'm saying we ignore Malcolm's words. We rather go with what we want to believe because we want to create a place for these bow tie bean pie people. And I believe before I became a vegan, I loved bean pies. So I can understand if they came out with a vegan bean pie, I would probably try to overlook and obfuscate and pretend like there's some nuance to their impact and their role in Malcolm's death. But I'm a vegan and they don't, and they put eggs and butter in them bean pies. So I don't have no reason to justify the nation. And
they make some vegan bean pies in Baltimore. Chill out.
I was going to say, you can find vegan bean pies, Diallo.
Yeah, get them, in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago. If the south side, the home, I'm 5 blocks from Elijah Muhammad's mansion. If I can't find vegan bean pies on the south side of Chicago, then they don't exist.
So you know who I know you're not 5 blocks away from?
What?
Farrakhan's.
No, he lived on the Gold Coast in a high rise. I couldn't get close to his building.
Diallo, you are
in a headlock if I went within a mile of his manicured mansion up there with the white folks.
Diallo,
religion people.
Diallo. You are saying that Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad created the space and opportunity for the state
No.
to use them. Wait. For the state to use them, or the state to cooperate with them to get Malcolm up out of there.
Malcolm said that they had been thoroughly infiltrated and that the federal government was well aware of the nation's assaults and attempts to take him down, and that the federal government essentially stepped back and let it happen. That's what Malcolm said. Y'all can listen to whoever. I listened to what Malcolm said. I'm a student of Malcolm. I respect and I am a descendant of Malcolm. And Malcolm said the nation, independent of the government, had its own agenda against Malcolm, and that the nation was thoroughly integrated into the nation, had thoroughly infiltrated the group and understood what they were doing and didn't fail to take appropriate action to stop them. That's what Malcolm said. Malcolm didn't say he was using them as an instrument. Malcolm didn't say that.
Are you a member of an organization that I think you've answered this before, but this is it's come up again in the chat.
I'm sorry.
Are you a member of an organization?
I am the sole member of the African World Coalition. I am the chairman, the janitor, the spokesman, and the international sex symbol for the African World Coalition, AWC.
All right.
What? Hey, I could wear many hats. I'm multi-talented.
Listen, I do remember that Amos Wilson was once said that, like, Farrakhan or Elijah Muhammad, if you want to act white or be white, be like Farrakhan, because they was able to create their whole nation and duplicate after white people.
Here's the bottom.
So that's not far from the comment of, the state getting out the way and let them do what they do, because they have the potential to do exactly what the
NOI
state
is an asset of the intelligence apparatus. It was an asset of the intelligence apparatus. And we don't come to terms with that. I've been to too many gatherings, National Black United Front, and we embrace this organization and we've never held an account. Even Khalid Muhammad, who I respect, they have mocked his death. They have taken credit for his death. They have belittled those who stood with him over generations, and we still are trying to blame the feds and reduce or diminish or even erase the role that the nation said. And to the point where everybody who loved Malcolm, but we don't listen to Malcolm. We don't listen to Malcolm. Come on. I'm a trust what Malcolm said about the situation. That's my final word on it.
All right. Let's all let that be the guiding light as we exit today. I appreciate you both. I appreciate all of the folks in the chat who will see and hear this later. I appreciate all of you as well. Definitely support our BPM fundraiser, the link to which is in the show description, so we can help expand and continue on some of our projects and get this together, you know what I mean, and deliver these
message
so that you don't ever have to be caught out here wondering
the fuck is he talking about.
Right. So we just keep helping support us as we continue to grow. Listen, I really do appreciate all of our guests today, my colleagues here on the screen, those off the screen as well. Shout out to everybody, and I'm being asked to let them keep going, but unfortunately that's not possible right now. So anyway, stay tuned. Isn't that the number one thing in show business? Keep them wanting more. So yeah. See you all next week. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.